What's good? It's your girl, Squeeze Jones, aka Killer Queen T, aka Blackout T, aka don't sit over there, sit over here. Just go over there and get the chair. So, we on Left Behind. We're going to do Left Behind today. Yeah, we're going to do Left Behind today. Y'all know it's Saturday. Y'all only get one Saturday and Sunday, so. Chapter 4. Buck kept pressing a handkerchief soaked with cold water onto the back of his head. His wound had stopped bleeding, but it stung. I'm a doctor. No. He found another message in his email inbox and was about to access it when he was tapped on the shoulder. I'm a doctor. Let me look at your wound. Oh, it's all right, and I. Just let me do this, pal. I'm going crazy here with nothing to do when I have my bag. I'm working free today. Call it a rap shoe special, or what? Well, what would you call what happened? The doctor said, removing a bottle and gauge from his bag. This is going to be pretty redundant, but we will be startled. AIDS? I'm sorry. Come on, you know the routine. He snapped on rubber gloves. Have you got HIV or anything fun like that? No, and hey, I appreciate this. At that instant, the doctor splashed a heavy dose of disinfectant on the gauge and held it against Buck's scraped head. Yo, take it easy. Be a big boy there, stud. This will hurt less than the infection you get otherwise. He roughly scraped the wound, cleaning it and causing it to ooze blood again. Listen, I'm going to do a little shave job so I get a bandage to hold. All right? All right with you? Buck's eyes were watering. Yeah, sure. But what was that you said about rapture? Rapture. Is there any other explanation that makes sense? The doctor said, using a scalpel to tend to Buck's eye. A club attendant came by and asked if they could move the operation to one of the washrooms. I promise to clean up, hon, the doctor said. Almost done here. Well, this can't be sanitary, and we don't have other members to think about. And we do have other members to think about. Why don't you just give them their drinks and nuts, all right? You'll find this just isn't going to upset them that much on a day like this. I don't appreciate being spoke to that way, the doctor sighed as he worked. You're right. What's your name? Susie. Listen, Susie, I'm being rude. I've been rude, and I apologize. Okay. Now let me finish this, and I promise not to perform any more surgery right out here in public. No, he said, let me do this one. I got you. Doc, Buck said, leave me your card so I can properly thank you. No need, the doctor said. Putting his stuff away. Now give me your take on this. What you mean about the rapture? Another time. Your turn for the phone. Buck was torn, but he couldn't pass up the chance to communicate with New York. He tried dialing direct, but couldn't get through. He set his computer to initiate a constant signal search while he looked for a message from Steve Plank's secretary, the mandatory Margie Porter. Buck, you scorned him. Like I don't have enough to do and worry about today. I got to check on your girlfriend's families. Where you meet this Haiti Durham? You could tell how I reached her mother out west, but that was before a flood, a storm, or something knocked phone lines out again. She's perfectly healthy, but rattled, and she's very grateful to know her daughter hasn't disappeared. The two sisters are okay, too, according to Mom. You are a dear for helping people like this, Buck. Steve says you're going to try to come in. It'd be good to see you. This is so awful. So far, we know of several staffers who disappeared. Several more we haven't heard from, including some in Chicago. Everybody from the senior staff is accounted for. Now that we're heard from you, I hope and pray you'll be all right. Have you noticed it seems to have struck the innocents? Everyone we know who's gone is either a child or a very nice person. On the other hand, some truly wonderful people are still here. I'm glad you're one of them, and so is Steve. Call us. No word whether she'd been able to reach Buck's widowed father or married brother. Buck wondered if that was on purpose or if she simply had no news yet. His niece and nephew has to be gone, if it was true that no children had survived. Buck gave up trying to reach the office directly, but finally connected with his online service. He uploaded his files and a few hasty batted out messages of his whereabouts. That way, by the time the telephone system once again took on some semblance of normalcy, Global Weekly would have already gotten a head start on his stuff. He hung up and disconnected to the grateful look of the next line, then went looking for the doctor. No look. March had referred to the innocents. The doctor assumed it was the rapture. Steve had poo-pooed space aliens. But how could you rule out anything at this point? His man was already reeling with ideas for the story behind the disappearances. Talk about the assignment of a lifetime. Buck got in line at the service desk, knowing his odds of getting to New York by conventional means was slim. While he waited, he tried to remember what it was Cham Rosenwig, the newsmaker of the year, had told him about the young Nicole Carpita of Romania. Buck had told only Steve Plank about it, and Steve agreed it wasn't worth putting in the already tight story. Rosenwig had been impressed with Carpita, that was true, but why? Buck sat on the floor in line and moved when he had to. He called up his archived files on the Rosenwig interview and did a word search on Carpedia. He recalled having been embarrassed to admit to Rosenwig that he had never heard of the man. As the interview transcripts scrolled past, he hit the pause button and read. When he noticed his low battery light flashing, he fished an extension cord out of his bag and plugged the computer into a socket along the wall. Watch the cord, he called out occasionally as people passed. One of the women behind the counter hollered at him that he'd have to unplug it. He smiled at her. And if I did, are you going to have me thrown out? Arrested? Cut me some slack today. Of all days. Hardly anyone took note of the crazy man on the floor yelling at the counter woman. Such rarely happened at the Pancon Club. But nothing surprised anyone today. Rayford Steele disembarked on the helipad at Northwest Community Hospital in Argoland Heights, where the pilots had to get off. Yeah, we did leave with Rayford, because if you remember at chapter 3, we left Rayford. You the captain. Oh, everybody got a feeling for Haiti, huh? Oh yeah, Buck did. I'll tell her he was gonna help her, but she went with Haiti. Ended up going with Rayford in the helicopter, and then she got dropped off first, and then he went home to see if his family was alive. His wife, but he know his wife and his son is gone. He just talked to his daughter. Well, he didn't talk to his daughter. He listened to the voicemail, so that's what's popping off with him. Well, the pilots had to get off and make room so a patient could be flown to Milwaukee. The other pilots hung around the entrance, hoping to share a cab, but Rayford had a better idea. He began walking. He was about 5 miles from home, and he was betting he could hitch a ride easier than finding a cab. He hoped his captain's uniform and his clean-cut appearance would set someone's mind at ease about giving him a ride. As he trudged along, his trench coat over his arm and his bag in his hand, he had an empty, despairing feeling. By now, Haiti would be getting to her condo, checking her messages, trying to get calls through to her family. If he was right that Irene and Ray Jr. were gone, where would they have been when it happened? Would he find evidence that they had disappeared rather than being killed in some related accident? Rayford calculated that the disappearance would have taken place late evening, perhaps around 11 p.m. Central Time. Would anything have taken them away from home at that hour? He couldn't imagine what, and he doubted it. A woman of about 40 stopped for Rayford on Overgrown Road. When he thanked her and told her where he lived, she said she knew the area. A friend of mine lived there. Leeling, the Asian woman girl on Channel 7 News. I know her and her husband, Rayford said. They still live on our street? Not anymore. They dedicated the new newscast to her today. The whole family is gone. Oh, shit. Yes. But if you got to think about it, if the whole family go, we all in heaven together, balling, chilling, cooling. Y'all like twists, really? I'm just saying. Rayford is hailed loudly. This is unbelievable. Have you lost people? Afraid so, she said, her voice quavering. About a dozen nieces and nephews. Wow. You? I don't know yet. I'm just getting back from a fight, and I haven't been able to reach anybody. Do you want me to wait for you? No, I have a car. If I need to go anywhere, I'll be all right. O'Hara's closed, she said. Really? Since when? They just announced it on the radio. Runways are full of planes, terminals full of people, roads full of cars. Tell me about it. As the woman drove sniffling into Mount Prospect, Rayford felt fatigue as he never endured before. Every few houses had driveways jammed with cars, people milling about. It appeared everyone everywhere had lost someone. He knew he would soon be counted among them. Can I offer you anything? He asked the woman as she pulled into his driveway. She shook her head. I'm just glad to have been able to help. You can pray for me if you think of it. I don't know if I can endure this. I'm not much for praying, Rayford admitted. You will be, she said. I never was before, either, but I am now. Then you can pray for me, he said. I will. Count on it. Rayford stood in the driveway and waved to the woman till she was out of sight. The yard and the walk was spotless as usual. The Hughes house, his trophy house, was spectacle. He unlocked the front door. From the newspaper on the stoop to the closed drapes in the picture window to the bitter smell of burned coffee when he opened the door. Everything pointed to what he dreaded. Irene was a flirtatious housekeeper. Her morning routine included the coffee pot on a timer, kicking on at 6, pre-clothing her special blend of decaf with an egg. The radio was set to come on at 6:30. Turn to the local Christian station. The first thing Irene did when she came downstairs was open the drapes at the front and back of the house. With a lump in his throat, Rayford tossed the newspaper into the kitchen and took his time hanging up his coat and sliding his bag into the closet. He remembered the package Irene had mailed him at O'Hara and put it in his wide uniform pocket. He would carry with him as he searched for evidence that she had disappeared. If she was gone, he sure hoped she had been right. He wanted above all else for her to have seen her dream realized, for her to have been taken away by Jesus into the twinkling of an eye, a thrilling, painless journey to his side in heaven, as she always loved to say. She deserved that if anyone did. And Raymie? Where would he be? With her? Of course. He went with her to church, even when Rayford didn't go. He seemed to like it, to get into it. He even read his Bible and studied it. Rayford unplugged the coffee pot that had been turning itself off, and then back on for 7 hours and had ruined the brew. He dumped the mess and left the pot in the sink. He flicked off the radio, which was piping the Christian station network news, hooked up into the air, droning on about the tragedy and mayhem that had resulted from the disappearances. He looked about the living room, dining room, and kitchen, expecting to see nothing but the usual neatness of Irene's house. His eyes filled with tears. He opened the drapes as she would have. Was it possible she had gone somewhere, visited someone, left him a message? But if she had, and he did find her, what would that say about her faith? Would that prove that this was not rapture she believed in? Or would it mean she was lost, just like he was? For her sake, if this was the rapture, he hoped she was gone. But the ache and the emptiness were already overwhelming. He switched on the answering machine and heard all the same messages he had heard when he had gotten through O'Hara, plus the messages he had left. His own voice sounded strange to him. He detected in it of fatalism, as if he knew he was not leaving a message for his wife and son, but only pretended to. He dreaded going upstairs. He moseyed through the family room to the garage exit. If only one of the cars was missing, and one was. Maybe she had gone somewhere. But as soon as he thought of it, Rayford slumped onto the step just inside the garage. It was his own BMW that was gone, the one he had driven to O'Hara the day before. It would be waiting for him when the traffic cleared. The other 2 cars were there, Irene's and the one Chloe used when she was home. And all those memories of Raymie were there too. His 4-wheeler, his snowmobile, his bike. Rayford hated himself for his broken promises to spend more time with Raymie. He'll have plenty of time to regret that. Rayford stood and heard the rattle of the envelope in his pocket. It was time to go upstairs. Damn. I feel lost for him. I know I do. It was nearly Buck Williams' turn at the head of the line at Pan Con Club. So right now, it just seemed like we just step in between Buck and Rayford. So we 2 dudes. When he found the material he had been looking for on his disc. At some point during their several days of tapping, Buck had raised the issue of every other country trying to curry favor with Dr. Rosenwig and hoping to gain access to his formula for his own gain. This has been an interesting aspect, Rosewood had allowed, his eyes twinkling. I was most amused by a visit from the Vice President of the United States himself. He wanted to honor me, to bring me to the President, to have a parade, to confer a degree, all that. He diplomatically said nothing about my owing him everything returned, but I would owe him everything, would I not? Much was said about what a friend of Israel the United States has been over the decades. And this has been true, no? How could I argue? But I pretended to see the awards and kindness as all for my own benefit, and I humbly turned them down. Because you see, young man, I am most humble, am I not? The old man had laughed uproariously at himself and relayed several other stories of visiting dignitaries who worked at charming him. Was anyone secure? Buck had asked. Did anyone impress you? Yes, Rosenwood had said without hesitation. From the most perplexing and surprising corner of the world, Romania. I do not know if he was sent or came on his own, but I suspect the latter because I believe he is the lowest ranking officer I entertained following the award. This is one of the reasons I wanted to see him. He asked for the audience himself. He did not go through typical political and protocol channels, and he was Nicole Carpina. Carpina, like Carpina Mountains, a melegonic name, you must admit. I found him most charming and humble, not unlike myself. Again, he had laughed. I had not heard of him. You will. Buck had tried to lead the old man because he's impressive. That's all I can say. And he's some sort of low-level diplomat at this point. He is a member of the lower house of Romania government. Is that the Senate? No, the Senate is the upper house, of course. Don't feel bad that you don't know, even though you are an international journalist. There is something only Romanians and amateur political scientists like me know. This is something I like to study. In your spare time? Precisely. Even I had not known of this man. I knew someone in the House of Deputies, that's what they call the lower house in Romania, was a peacemaker and leading the moment toward disarmament. But I did not know his name. I believe his goal is global disarmament, which we Iraqs have come to distrust. But of course, he must first bring about disarmament in his own country, which not even you will see in your lifetime. This man is about your age, by the way. Blind and blue-eyed, like the original Romanians who came from Rome before the Mongols affected their race. What did you like so much about him? Let me count, Rosenwig had said. He knew my language as well as his own, and he speaks fluent English. Several others also, they tell me. Well educated, but also widely self-taught. And I just like him as a person. Very bright, very honest, very open, very. What did he want from you? That was what I liked the best, because I found him so open and honest. I asked him outright the question. He insisted I call him Nicole, so I said, Nicole, that was at the hour of pleasantries. What do you want from me? Do you know what he said, young man? He said, Dr. Rosenwig, I seek only your goodwill. What can I say? I said, Nicole, you have it. I am a bit of a pacifist myself, you know. Not unrealistically. I did not tell him this. I merely told him he had my goodwill, which is something you also have. I suspect that it is not something you bestow easily. That is why I like you and why you have it. One day you must meet Carpedia. You would like each other. His goals and dreams may never be realized, even in his own country. But he is a man of high ideas. If he should emerge, you will hear of him. And as you are emerging in your own orbit, he will likely hear of you. Or from you. Am I right? I hope so. Suddenly it was Buck's turn at the counter. He gathered up his extension cord and thanked the young woman for bearing with him. Sorry about that, he said, pausing briefly for forgiveness that was not forthcoming. It's just that today, of all days, well, he wouldn't understand. Apparently, she did not understand. She had a rough day, too. She looked at him tardily and said, what can I not do for you? Oh, you mean because I did not do something you asked? No, she said. I'm saying that to everybody. It's my little joke because there's really nothing I could do for anybody. No flights are scheduled for today. The airport is going to close any minute. Who knows how long it will take to clear out the wreckage and get any kind of traffic moving again. I'll take your request and everything, but I can't get your luggage, book you a flight, get you a phone, book you a hotel, anything we love to do for our members. You are a member, aren't you? Am I a member? Gold or platinum? Lady, I'm a kryptonite member. He flashed his card, showing that he was among the top 3% of air travelers in the world. If any flight had one seat in the cheapest section, it had to be given to him, and upgraded to first class at no charge. Oh my gosh, she said. Tell me you're not the Carmen Williams from the magazine. I am. Time honest? Don't black to my eyes. I'm from the competition. Oh, I knew it. The reason I knew it, I wanted to get into journalism. I studied it in college. I just read about you, didn't I? Youngest award winner on most covered stories by someone over 20. Funny or something. I can't believe we're joking on a day like this, he said. She suddenly clouded over. I don't even want to think about it. So what could I do for you if I could do anything? Here's the thing, Buck said. I have to get to New York. Now, don't give me that look. I know it's the worst place to try to get to right now. But you know people. You know pilots who fly on the side. Chauffeur stuff. You know what airports they will fly out of. Let's say I had unlimited resources and could play whatever I need to. Who would you send me to? She stared at him. I can't believe you asked me that. Why? Because I do know somebody. He flies these little jets out of Little Waukegan and Milwaukee airports. He's expensive, and he's the type who would charge double during a crisis, especially if he knew who you are and how desperate. There won't be any hiding that. Give me the info. Hearing it on the radio and seeing it on television was one thing. Encountering it for yourself was something else again. Rayford still had no idea how it would feel to find evidence that his own wife and son had vanished from the face of the earth. Is you still downstairs, Rayford? He did get to the house. He did go walk around all downstairs. That was long. That was a lot. At the top of the stairs, he paused by the family photos. Irene, always one for order, had hung them chronologically, beginning with his and her great-grandparents. Old, cracked, black and white, so stern faced, raw-boned men and women of the Midwest. Then came the faded color shots of their grandparents on their 50th wedding anniversary. Then their parents, their siblings, and themselves. How long had it been since he had studied their wedding photos? Irene with her ancient hairstyle and his so-called fashions from decades past. And those family pictures with Chloe, 8 years old, holding the baby. How grateful he was that Chloe was still here, and that somehow he would connect with her. But what did this all say about the two of them? They were lost? He didn't know what to hope and pray for. That Irene and Raymie were still here, and that this was not what it appeared. He could wait no longer. Raymie's door was open a crack. His alarm was beeping. Rayford turned it off. On the bed was a book Raymie had been reading. Rayford slowly pulled the blankets back to reveal Raymie's wool pajama top, his underpants, and his socks. He sat on the bed and wept, nearly smiling at Irene's hampering about Raymie's not wearing socks to bed. He laid the clothes in a neat pile and noticed a picture of himself on the bed table. He stood smiling inside the terminal, his cap tucked under his arm, a 747 outside the window in the background. The picture was signed, "To Raymie with love, Dad." Under that he had written, "Rayford Stilley, Captain, Pan Continental Airlines, O'Hara." He shook his head. What kind of dad autographs a picture for his own son? Rayford's body felt like lead. It was all he could do to force himself to stand. And when he was dizzy, realizing he hadn't eaten in hours, he slowly made his way out of Raymie's room without looking back, and he shut the door. At the end of the hall, he paused before the French doors that led to the master suite. What a beautiful, floral place Irene had made it, decorated with needlepoint and country knickknacks. Had he ever told her he appreciated it? Had he ever appreciated it? There was no long to turn off here. The smell of coffee had always arose Irene. Another picture of them, him looking confidently at the camera, her gazing at him. He did not deserve it. He deserved this, he knew, to be mocked by his own self-centeredness, to be stripped of the most important person in his life. He approached the bed knowing what he would find. The indented pillow, the wrinkled covers. He could smell her, though he knew the bed would be cold. He carefully peeled back the blankets and sheets to reveal her locket, which carried a picture of him. Her flannel nightgown, the one he always kidded her about, and which she wore only when he was not home, evidence her now departure form. His throat tight, his eyes filled. He noticed her wedding ring near the pillow, which she always supported her cheek with her hand. It was too much to bear, and he broke down. He gathered the ring in his palm and sat on the edge of the bed, his body racked with fatigue and grief. He put the ring in his jacket pocket and noticed the package she had mailed. Tearing it open, he found 2 of his favorite homemade cookies with hearts drawn on topping chocolate. What a sweet, sweet woman, he thought. I never deserved her, never loved her enough. He set the cookies on the bedside table. Their essence filled the air. With wooden fingers, he removed his clothes and let them fall to the floor. He climbed to the bed and lay face down, gathered Irene's nightgown in his arm so he smelled her and imagined her close to him And Rayford cried himself to sleep. Okay, so we leaving with Rayford crying himself to sleep. Buck about to pay a ridiculous amount of money for A Way to New York. That will be the title.